So I'm going to try this, and I can't guarantee that it's going to be a success. I've written some notes to try to keep me on course, so I can at least kind of make points and not ramble too much. I did some snow shoveling tonight, and as I was snow shoveling, I had lots of time to think. When it's midnight and everybody in your townhouse block is asleep, and you're the dude out there with lots of stuff to shovel. You have a lot of time to think. So I kind of have some big points that I kind of hope will get me to where I want to be at the end. The first one, there is absolutely no way to be blunt or delicate in putting this. I am 45 years old. I am broken. That's the only way to put that. I am a broken, damaged human being. A lot of it comes down to trust issues. A lot of it comes down to simply the fact that, I don't like being called it. It's a hateful thing. I think people use it for attack, but I'm a control freak. I need to have a sense of control. If I don't have a sense of control, I start to go to shit. Some of you knew me back in from 2009 to 2015 when I was either unemployed or underemployed. That whole space of free fall. I had no control over my life, no control over my destiny. I had my partner who was floating me, keeping me in a home, keeping me fed, allowing me whatever money came in to, take care of my needs, but I ultimately had no control. And I think thinking about this comes back to two key issues that hit me kind of at pivotal points in my life. I have wrestled as to whether I want to talk about this in a public forum or not. Part of me was kind of thinking, well, why don't you wait until your parents are dead? Your dad is, God, how old is dad this year? Your dad is turning 75. Your mom has just turned 70. They're not going to be around that much longer. Why don't you just shut up on this until they're dead, and then you can talk? It's like, silence is not going to do me any good. So, Mom, Dad, if you click on this video and watch this, I'm sorry. You can scrub forward. You don't have to. You don't have to deal with what I'm going to talk about. But if I'm talking about myself as a broken human being, I'll put it to you this way. We're to the point. I'm a teacher by trade. That is what I do for a living. And every January, I always bristle because every fucking show always wants to go back to the Challenger disaster. And as a teacher, that's one of my kindred on that ship. It's bothered me, the way that they only talk about that crew and that accident. One time a year. It's Learning Channel, Discovery, National Geographic, CNN. So anyway, you can't talk about fixing something without talking about why something is broken. So my parents, to say that I grew up in an emotional war zone is a very, very polite way of putting things. My parents started on the road to divorce in 1979. It finalized in either 1981 or 1982, but there was one morning in the winter of 1981. I was in third grade at the time, Grand Blanc, Michigan, Indian Hills Elementary School, or Indian Hill Elementary School. My teacher was either Laura Olson or Laura Pascoe. She got married at some point in time in that academic year, so it changed. These are all just like drilled into my mind, and my parents were kind of in the final phases of their divorce. And one morning on a school day, our family ritual, my brother and I would get up, we would have breakfast, my mother would go upstairs and pick out clothes for us and put them on the couch. We would change out of our pajamas, we would change into our clothes for the day, go out, catch the bus, and go to school. And one morning, while all this was going on, I don't even think we'd started getting dressed yet. We're down in the living room with this L-shaped Hinderdon sofa and one of those big 70s era furniture piece of televisions, huge wood cabinets. So we're getting ready for school, about to dress, and my father walks down, and as usual, he is dressed because that was just what he would do before he would go to work. Anyway, my father comes down, and he stops, and he looks at my brother, and he looks at me, and he says, "Bye, guys. Have a nice life." That was all he said. And he walked out the door. And I remember it took about 5 seconds. At the time I was 8 years old. It took a few seconds to think in and process that. What the fuck? I was 8 years old. I wasn't using obscenities yet. That was my 5th grade upgrade when I was about 10. I was like, what the fuck just happened? Did Dad say, "Bye, guys, have a nice life"? I knew the divorce was going on. I was like, oh, shit, really? He's leaving? My brother and I both ran out into the garage where Dad was warming up his Corvette. My mother was in just full hysterical breakdown mode, and then she had 2 children to try to wrangle. And my brother and I think it's probably one of the few times that my brother and I have ever worked together on something. We had a plan. My mother could only control one child at once. I remember my little brother was lying behind the rear wheels of the Corvette, basically making himself a human barricade between the garage and the street. I was pounding on the driver's side window, and I remember Dad rolled it down to yell at me because he was afraid I was going to break the glass. Going, "Bye, guys, have a nice life." What are you going to do if I break the fucking glass, Dad? You just said you're leaving. Are you going to come back and punish me? What other shit can I break to keep you around here? So my mother came out in her housecoat and grabbed my little brother, and seconds before my father put the car in gear, I dove under one of the tires so he couldn't pull back. So they're both yelling at me. My mother releases my little brother to grab me and pull me from under the tires. He's free. He dives behind the rear tire. So we played this game for about 2 or 3 minutes until one or both of them yelled at us and got us to stop. And I watched my father's dark navy blue Corvette back out of the 3rd stall in our garage in Kings Point subdivision in Grand Blanc, Michigan, and drive off into the morning. And I got dressed. I tried to put it together and keep it together, but at some point in time, early in the day, I was in Miss Pascoe's class, and I just fucking melted down. Like, this is one of those hysterical crying things. You can barely speak. You've got every kid in the classroom, all 3rd graders looking at, what the fuck is wrong with him? Oh my God. And very quickly, Mrs. Pasco took me down to the office, and of course, the principal didn't believe me. Panda, your father left. Your father wouldn't leave. Your father is an attorney. Your father is an upright, moral member of our community. He wouldn't leave your family. Well, 2 phone calls were made. The first phone call was made to my father's office, and whoever at the school spoke to my father's secretary learned that my father had kind of left the family. He was in the process of taking a trip to Acapulco. Come on, it's winter in Michigan. Who doesn't want to go to fucking Mexico for some sun, right? Who cares if you emotionally destroy your children in the process? So I learned that, and then at some point in time, I guess someone called my mother and actually verified my story. Oh, Panda, we're so sorry. We didn't mean to accuse you of lying. We didn't mean, fuck you. You totally did that. I was there. I remember that. So that destroyed my trust. 8 years old in third grade. I've had a hard time trusting people ever since that. On a whim, I decided to, I don't know, torture myself, punish myself, or do something. I was watching a very bad production of Rent that someone had uploaded to YouTube. And, we get to the point in Act 2 where Mark sings his song, Why Am I the Witness? And if I capture it on film, am I the only one? Am I the one who's going to be left? And for me, those trust issues have traveled with me 37 years now. Those trust issues are going to go with me to the grave. I can't fix those trust issues. I will meet people and I will get comfortable with them. And I may have moments where I let my guard down. But in the back of my mind somewhere, I will always be apprehensive. I don't care who it is. People I've known for 30 years, family, friends. I will always be apprehensive. I will always be living with an array of shields around me. And even if you think you're close, just because you don't see the shields doesn't mean that they're not up. It just means that I don't want you to think that I'm highly suspicious of you, so I hide them. But they're ready to go up. And they're ready to go up in a heartbeat, almost reflexively. Fuck. To nerd out here. If you ever read Legion of Superheroes, I got a Brainiac 5 thing going on here. Brainy always had his shields up. And they were reflexive. And they could always fire. So that was the first trust issue. Then, in 1992, I had moved to Florida. I had to get away from Michigan. I had to get away from my family and the world I knew to try and figure out my gender and my sexual identity. And I kind of put the pieces together pretty quick. 2 and 2. Sexually attractive woman on me, screaming, dick, 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 dick. Matt, I want your dick, dick, dick. It's really not doing anything for me. Chubby dude I'm seeing in the showers at the dorm. Oh, fuck, where did that come from? I put 2 and 2 together very quickly. And by 1992, I was kind of thinking, I got to come out. Because I don't like to surround myself in secrets. I don't like to be the person surrounded by secrets and lies. I know in furry fandom, a lot of people are like, oh my god, you're the too much information guy. You share too much. I don't like the goddamn waspy keep secrets. If you say something, people are going to shame you for it. I don't do shame. Y'all are going to see that when I'm still on point 1 when I get a little further down here. Shame and I, fuck shame. I can't do shame. So it's like, I got to come out, man. And I started in the 1992 school year. I started coming out at the dorm, and suddenly, the 91 school year, I started coming out in my dorm, and I started coming out to friends and coworkers. And Thanksgiving of 91, I started testing the waters with my family. And I told my oldest sister, Leanne, she was the first one I came out to because I could trust her. And we kind of plotted strategies on a scale of, yes, you can tell them, to, holy fuck, wait until the last minute. Kind of plotted out the family, who to come to. So I came out to my big sister and started the road of coming out to my family members. Now, my parents were kind of like, my parents are like way down here. It's like, all right, I'm telling like every other fucking person in the family that I have a genetic relationship to, and then we'll get to mom and dad. By spring break 92, I had reached that point. And there was a point where I was visiting my mother for spring break. I went to school in Tallahassee. She was down in South Florida. It was easier for me to go down there and spend time with her than try to get up to Michigan. So one day when we were down there, she and I had lunch at this little restaurant named Captain Hiram's. Again, the fact that I have precision level memory should tell you how ingrained this is in my head. And at that point in time, I was 19 years old, so I could drive. And because I could drive, she could drink. And as we had lunch, she ordered a carafe of wine and started drinking the wine and started drinking the wine and started drinking the wine. And we started to have a conversation and we talked. And at some point in the conversation, I'm like, okay, Panda, test the waters. Just test the waters. You can say she's drunk. You can pull that back. You have lots of defenses that you can use here. So I kind of introduced the idea that, you know what, maybe I'm not going to get married to that woman that you always thought I would. Maybe I'm not going to give you that grandchild you always thought you would. And she says to me, you are my son, and I will always love you, even if you come out. And in the back of my mind, I'm just doing a big old exhale. Okay, this is going to be easy. I got, mom says everything is okay. This is going to be easy. I just have to work on dad. My father was the one that I always thought was going to react poorly. When I was a child, and my father had custody raising my brother and I. My father was the face of casual homophobia. I had to do a lot of deprogramming. When I left Michigan, I had to do all sorts of deprogramming. Racism deprogramming, sexism deprogramming, classism deprogramming, homophobia deprogramming. I was a scratch and build from the ground up. So I always thought my dad was going to be the one who was going to react poorly. So when I had my break in the between the spring and summer semester of 1992, I kind of had my game plan in place. The elder relatives didn't know. My brother didn't know. So it was just kind of like a checklist. Okay, stepsister, bam. Brother, bam. Stepmother, bam. Aunt and uncle, bam. My aunt and uncle, Sue and Ed, fuck. They're the relatives who kept me sane when I was in Michigan. Because, like, in a hyper-conservative family, they're the progressives who helped keep me on site. So, like, Aunt Sue was like, you're my nephew, I love you. So I was like, okay. Then it was my father. And I waited. I waited until the last day. And I waited, partially because Dad was at work and he was going to come home from work and, God damn it, be ready. We've got to get everything in the car. I've got to get you to Metro right on time. But I'm going to be coming in from court. I'm coming in hot. So be ready. Have all your stuff. So, we get the car packed and we're driving down. and I'm looking for a good shoehorn in the conversation to start this to start this coming out process, and it doesn't happen. And then we get to Detroit Metro. I can't find a good angle in. We check all the stuff in for the airplane ride. I can't get an angle in. Security, walk to the gates. I can't get. Finally, the gate agent, U.S. Air would like to announce the boarding of Flight 321 to Tallahassee, Florida. Dad, I got something to tell you. And I said, listen, I got about 4 minutes before the plane boards, and I just got to tell you, Dad, I'm gay. Ellen DeGeneres, man, she totally fucking ripped off that scene. Well, okay, anyway, that's how it works in my headspace. He just looks at me and he says, I've known longer than you have. And all I could think is, if you knew longer than I did, why the fuck didn't you tell me so I didn't have a tortured adolescence where I was living in constant fear of everyone finding out? That conversation didn't happen. I got on the plane. I went down to, not to Tallahassee, I'm sorry. I went down to Vero Beach to spend the other part of that vacation with my mother. So I get down to spend some time with my mom, and I had to go down there because my mother had bought me a car, and I had to drive it up to Tallahassee. I also had to come down there and get the insurance dealt with, and the tags, and the title, and all that. Now, the one thing that you have to understand is going up to... going to school in Tallahassee. Tallahassee is very redneck, very conservative, very 20 to 25 years behind the times. I don't say this just in terms of physical layouts. Like, there were places that I would see retail establishments that still had their 60s caliber signs, man. When I pulled in, there was a Standard Oil. Now, about 2 weeks after I moved there, they got the BP upgrade, but still, there was a Standard Oil that had the old Standard logo, the oil, the oval with the 3 torches. I'm like, God damn, this is like a time travel place. They did not have anything for sex. If you wanted to buy toys, good luck with that. If you wanted to buy lube, good luck with that. If you wanted to buy condoms, this little store set up, Condomania, and that was all they were selling. And holy shit, you would think that the Christian conservatives were thinking that, Satan himself was going to come in riding on a giant Trojan and corrupt the town. So whenever I went home to Flint, my joke was, it was like that piece in the old Wilderness Family films when they come down into town and they see the doctor and they see the dentist and they get their supplies. For me, going up to Flint, it's like, let's go. I got to go to Deja Vu. I just got to get a few things to take back with me to Tallahassee. So when I was down visiting my mother rifled my luggage, and she found some of the porn that I bought, including bear porn. Yes, it existed in 1992. It wasn't good, but it existed. Sometimes, you got to take what you got. She found it, and she quickly realized that I was gay, and she was not tipsy on wine. So I got the silent treatment for 3 days. 3 days. She wouldn't talk to me. She would come in, she would make dinner, she would put dinner on the table. Panda, dinner's on the table, come eat. Wouldn't come downstairs and watch TV with me. And Saturday night, when I was at her place, I finally, Mom, did I do something wrong? Is there a problem? And she just looks at me and she says, yes, there is, and goes upstairs. The next memory I have is Sunday morning. She walks into the room I was staying in. I'm dead asleep. She walks in and she says, Panda, take a shower, get dressed, come downstairs. I want to talk to you. And at this point in time, man, I'm just going full fucking Batman on the armor. It's like, okay, I know this is it. We're going to have the conversation. She said that she wasn't going to be mad at me. I don't know why we're having this conversation. I came downstairs. By the time I came downstairs, all of my things were packed. They were by the door. So it's like, oh, fuck. It's like, I've become the gay after-school special. She sits me down in this little leather chair, kind of a little semicircle leather chair that she had bought back when we moved from Michigan to Fort Myers in 1984. Panda, sit down. I want to talk to you. And, she had her Bible with her, and, for 2 to 3 hours, as I recall, I had that point where it's all kind of a wash. Mentally, I had just kind of stepped back into the back of my mind. I've talked about growing up in an abusive household, and I knew there were moments when I was going to be beaten. It's just kind of like, that's the self-defense mechanism. It's just kind of like, check out in the back of my... Here's the perfect example. It's like the end of Aliens. When Ripley is on the gantry, the base is starting to explode, Bishop is gone, she's cursed him out, she's got Newt in her arms, and up the elevator is coming the alien queen. And she just grabs Newt and she says, "Don't look, baby, don't look." I was doing that in the back of my mind. Don't look, this isn't happening. Don't look, just write it out. Exist until you can go. And I remember sinful, grandparents are disappointed in you, I'm disappointed in you. There was lots of going to hell. Going to hell was the phrase that pays in that conversation. This is all your father's fault. When you were little, your father called you guys queers. Hence why I had to do a lot of homophobia deprogramming and leave Flint, Michigan to go to a safe space where I could do that. And basically it turned into, take the keys, get out. I don't want to see you again. So I did just that. I had an apartment that I was going to be moving up to in Tallahassee. I sat in that parking lot in my little Geo Metro and just fucking melted down and got myself in a position where I could take the 6 or 7 hour drive and hope that I wouldn't, go emotional and hurt myself or hurt someone else. And got up there, and I arrived at the apartment leasing office just in time. They were still open. It's like, hi, I'm here a few days early. Sorry about that. I slept, no power, no water, no furniture. I slept on the floor in that apartment. I had gone out to Albertsons, a little grocery store, and I had bought myself an oil lamp, and that was my light for that first night. So again, we come back to this idea of trust. I put my trust in my mother, I put my trust in my father, and they both got violated. And I carry those scars with me. I carry those wounds. If someone says, "Hey, you can trust me," I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. Do you want to go to Captain Hiram's? And are you more of a white or a red drinker? The last thing that, and I swear I'm still getting to the top of this, but I'm going deeper. It's another coming out time. I am a furry. I am one of those people whom you've seen demonized in pop culture for years and years and years. A lot of you who are watching this know this. A lot of you who are watching this once upon a time probably mocked me behind my back because furries, in the 90s and the early 2000s were not as cool as they are now. It's funny. I see a lot of people who mocked me for being a furry back then. Suddenly, hey, I want to go to the con. I want to go to the party. So I found the fandom in 1994, very early 1994. And I had gone to my first convention in November 94, my first real big convention in January of 95. And I had been going to conference every year since. And by 1998, 1999, I had met up with a group of local furries in the area, and they were starting to gather people, and they were starting to reach critical mass. And by 1999, I had gotten what I thought was a stable job, and I started to put together designs on creating a convention. At that point in time, 1998, 1999, there were not that many cons in the area. You had Conference, which was still running on life support. You had Albany Anthrocon, which was transitioning over to just Anthrocon now. You had the folks in Chicago who were beginning to muster for Midwest Fur Fest. They were springing that off of DuckCon into its own event. Meffet Fur Meet was just beginning to take form. And really, that was kind of it. Those were the events that you had. So I'm like, you know what? We got a group here. We got a population. Everybody seems pretty cohesive. I think we need to work on creating a convention in Orlando. And that was exactly what I did. I kind of thought, and I put the blueprints together, and I put the plans together, and I put everything together. And and I started picking people to come in and help me out. I was like, okay, I need one of this. I need, I need this position, this position, this position. Who can I put in for that? Okay, this person can do that. Do you want to do that? Yes. Okay, come on. So I started building things out, and in March 2 through 4, 2001, Furry Spring Break happened in Orlando, Florida. It was the state's first furry convention. Not a one-night furry party, but the first convention. And what happened was there were a few things that happened. One, the people in the area who had originally kind of poo-pooed the idea, you can't do this, panda, you can't do this, panda, this will never happen. Suddenly I did it, and I'm like, holy shit, we've got a con. I got to get a piece of that. I want to run that. In particular, there was one person who had just started a little media feature every Sunday night who suddenly wanted to really latch onto the convention because the convention could promote the media production that he was trying to turn a profit on, or at least he was trying to use to get as many technology toys for his house. Additionally, there was a fangirl in the area who really, really, really wanted to get involved. Super enthusiastic. Gossipy as hell, but, I took anybody on my staff. My philosophy is, if you want to be a part of Panda's family, come on, man. Whoever you are, I got a place for you. I am one of those lost kids who kind of had to build his own family. So it's like, you want to join Panda's family, I got a place for you. Come here. She wanted to start getting involved too late for the original event. And one of the things that I had to do in order to secure the hotel we were at, I had to sign a banquet rider. What I decided to do was we're going to put all of that into a big dinner on Saturday night. My philosophy is furry fandom is a family. We really genuinely are. In 94, that was my first feeling of really belonging to community. In 94, I had people hug me, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt genuine affection. Like, these people really like me. Not hugs from, other gay guys at the bar, which is just a problem for, I really want to fuck you. But, the furries, the hug was like, I dig you, I get you, I like you for who you are, I accept you for who you are. And I had never felt that before, even after I came out, that whole idea, I accept you for who you are. I wanted to try and create that experience. I wanted to try to bring that to Orlando. So what happened was there was this fangirl who really wanted to get involved with the convention. And it's Sunday afternoon of the con. Furry Spring Break 1 is still going on. She comes up to me, hey, I want to join the staff. I want to be your banquet coordinator next year at the con. Now, what I didn't tell anybody was I had already had a conversation with the hotel about the next contract. And the hotel had said, hey, you know what? You've brought us so many rooms. We're not going to put a banquet rider on you. You put the bodies in the rooms that you put in. You don't have to have the banquet. So what that meant was Panda didn't have a $4,000 sword of Damocles over his head because he had a very popular convention which was building critical mass and was going to break the hotel capacity for the next year. I didn't tell her that because, blabbermouth. I try not to do a lot of, rumor generation when and where I can. So I just said, let's get through this year. Let's have the postmortem for this year, and let's start to think about next year. So about a month later, we started the ramp up for 2002, and I said, hey folks, we don't have to do the banquet because we sold so many hotel rooms this year. And the look on her face, you could just see the little daggers. It was like she had created this position for herself, and she was mad because she thought I took it away when I never offered anything in the first place. Let's have a conversation. Let's move on to the next year. So suddenly, Panda's the asshole who took her thing away from her, the thing that I never gave to her. And the next thing I know is she's shit-talking me to people. she's made people not want to be around me or have me around because they know that if I'm there, she's going to attack. And frankly, they don't want to be the victim of what she's been dishing out on me. So I'm getting more and more and more and more and more pushed out. Now, while all that's going on, Media Man is starting to gather people who are hearing all of these things that Fangirl is saying about me. He's starting to gather people. People aren't coming to convention planning meetings. We're getting closer and closer and closer to March of 2002. So finally, in late November 2002, or maybe early December 2002, my assistant director, his wife, and myself, we were at the Ramada Convention Center in Orlando, Florida, having our planning meeting. Now, mind you, this convention happened in March of 2002, so we're talking December, January, February. 3 months to go, there were only 2 of us there. None of the main areas had given me any information on what they were doing. Everybody had pretty much just shut down. So he and I had the conversation, and we basically agreed, we got to mothball this for a year. We don't have enough momentum to make this event happen. Well, I had no idea that, Media Man was kind of pulling everybody behind into his own little tent. So we make the announcement. I go up to visit my father in Michigan for winter break, and the next thing I know, Media Man and his crew, he's got some people backing him financially, they go in, they sign the hotel, and suddenly they say, hey, Panda dropped the ball on this, and Panda really tried to screw all of you, and you know what? We're going to put our own event on, and it's just going to be named after this web show that I'm doing, by the way, but don't pay any attention to that. We're going to put our own convention on, and by the way, blame all this shit on Panda, and people did. Holy fuck. Again, so you've got the trust issue there. I trusted the people that I brought onto this staff to make this event happen. And every single one of them, people weren't even talking to me after this. I don't know if it's just because of the shame of what they did. Anyway. So, trust is one of the big reasons why I am broken. Trust is one of the big reasons why I am a control freak. The situation with my father, the situation with my mother, the situation with Furry Spring Break, that's who I am. I can't fix that. I've tried. Now, take all that. I've got these trust issues. I've got control freak issues. I've got all these things that I'm trying to keep in check. The next big thing, I give good villain. Dead serious. I give good villain. Now, what do I mean when I say that? Well, if you need someone to portray as a good bad guy in a situation, I'll be absolutely honest. In just this past week, due to another event that I've been working with, I've been called Kim Jong-un. I've been called Donald Trump. I give good villain. I am male. I am large. I am very boisterous. I am ultra confident. I had to learn that as a survival skill growing up when I was getting bullied, because there was a point in 9th grade I was getting bullied so aggressively I goddamn near took my life. The thought that I had was I did not want my father waking up late for work to walk into the bedroom and find his dead son in the bed because, oh shit, Panda, you killed yourself. God damn it. I got court at 8 o'clock. God damn it. I'm going to be late. God damn it. Shit. I've got to call my secretary and have all my... God damn it, Panda. Couldn't you have killed yourself on a weekend? Welcome to the emotional hell of my childhood. I had to become scrappy to survive. That was the only way that I could endure the schooling situation that I was in. And how I did that was very simple. I started watching stand-up comedy on HBO. and I analyzed it. What makes it work? How does it work? What's the mechanism? There was one point in time when I was 13 years old, man, I had Robin Williams' Night at the Met routine committed to memory. I could perform it I could lip sync it, and I could perform it like someone at Rocky Horror doing the lines back. And I kind of realized that, if somebody is aggressive with me, I'm a lover, not a fighter. That's the way it's always been since day one. I can't physically fight them, but if I can sting them real hard in public, other people laughing at them will make them go away. So I give good villain. I'm loud, I'm male, I'm scrappy as fuck, and I'm big. 350 pounds. For some reason, man, fat men are just villainized, especially in modern culture, man. My thought was always going to be the fat guy. I'm going to be the teddy bear. I'm going to be the people that want to hug. I'm going to be the people that people feel safe around. Instead, it's like, oh, that asshole panda, and pick the situation, man. In furry fandom, admittedly, yes, because of the control freak issues, because of the trust issues, I was a giant ball of anger that I've spent a lot of the last 25 years trying to diffuse, trying to deprogram. And, Buddhism has really helped with this. I'm kind of like the big Zen panda now who just kind of has those streaks and moments. It was very easy to villainize me in a crowd just because of the way that I carried myself. And a lot of people, they won't try to get to know you. They will hear something about someone and they will stick with that image. So for a lot of people who are in furry fandom watching this, I'm the fat dude who walks by you at a convention that if you recognize the name badge, and I've even tried changing fan handles over the year. That was the big dumb mistake that I made when I moved to North Carolina. I've tried changing handles because my thought is, if there's a new name, people aren't going to recognize. Yeah, that doesn't. I can't change this, or at least I don't have Kardashian money, so I can change this. So I give great villain, and that kind of turns into a loop because then people are looking for things that I do that validate their negative impression. Well, I heard from someone that he did this. Like that scene from Ferris Bueller. Just imagine people with ears and tails on instead of high school students. Almost never true, almost never accurate, but the good old telephone game, who the fuck cares, right? So for most people, I am an icon on a screen. I am words on a screen. I am not a human being. The people who are watching this video, up until I hit the submit button on this video, I can count the number of people on one hand outside of my family who have ever seen me cry. And admittedly, what I did earlier really wasn't crying because in the back of my mind, little panda was like, oh, fuck, get it back in order. We're breaking apart. Get it back together. We don't want to be a fucking sobbing mess on YouTube like every other one of those videos. But for a lot of people, I'm not a person. And I've even had people tell me as much. Because when I become a person, I become a human being. When I become a human being, I become someone or something that you have to empathize with. You have to negotiate with. You have to work with. And you know what? It's a lot easier to have a nameless, faceless asshole to just go ahead and rail against. So, I'm broken. I give good villain. This kind of brings us to the beginning of the big points. I will never be happy. I have finally come to that realization. God damn, man. My Netflix subscription, BoJack Horseman, is the best therapy. I've had people telling me for years, Panda, get therapy. Panda, get therapy. Panda, get therapy. Panda, you just need some therapy. Panda, go into therapy. My boyfriend at the beginning of the year threatened breaking up with me. Key on the table, slides the key forward. If you don't listen to me, we're through. And the one condition was, Panda, you have to get therapy. It's like, it doesn't fucking work for me. It really doesn't. I know what's going on up here, and I can't get around it. It is so deeply ingrained. The wounds are so deep. Think about a sheet of foil. Sometimes when I try to have this conversation with people, which almost always comes after I've done something stupid and I'm trying to salvage whatever I can of the friendship or the relationship. Imagine a piece of foil and describe it. It's shiny, it's sleek, it's smooth, it has a shiny side, it has a dull shiny side. Now roll it up in a ball. Now, take that ball, separate it back out, and try to smooth it out. The foil is still a square, but now it's wrinkled. You can't make those wrinkles go away. And a lot of the damage that I carry with me are those wrinkles. I will never be able to think about my father and not hear the phrase, "Bye guys, have a nice life." I will never be able to think about my mother and not hear, "Wake up, take a shower, get dressed, I want to talk to you." That's like animal instinct level memory. I can't make it go away. I can't fix it. And a therapist isn't going to be able to fix it. The best thing I can do is live in constant self-awareness and try to be a better person in spite of it. I've made one of the notes here, I am a living scar tissue. I am walking wreckage. I try to keep myself together, but I break. That's what people have to understand about me. I didn't get to have a childhood like a lot of people had their childhood. If you think that I'm bullshitting, if you go to Michigan, and again, I always try to keep anonymous about this because, I got doxxed in 2006 over on LiveJournal and lost a job because a furry made insinuations that someone else screen capped and got me doxxed over, and I lost a job because of that. That blackballed me, and it took me a decade to recover. I try not to release a lot of my personal information here, but if you go to Michigan and you look in the family law books and you knew my last real name, Panda Mom versus Panda Dad is in Michigan family law. The divorce was that bitter. The divorce was that nasty. If you really want to hear the story, here's the Twitter version. Panda Mom could not find a job in the Flint area because she was the typical child of the 40s and 50s. She was a baby boomer. You went to college, you find a man, you get in the relationship, you're the stay-at-home mom. Suddenly Panda Dad kind of fucked that up by sticking his dick into every bimbo in Grand Blanc, Saginaw, Fenton, Flushing, Swartz Creek, Flint, name the suburb, and Panda Dad probably did some dick sticking in there. So Panda Mom could not find a job, and somewhere in an alternate universe, Panda Me is living a fucking awesome rock star lifestyle because Panda Mom is a celebrity. Unfortunately, in this reality, that didn't happen. Panda Mom found a job on a then new cable network called the Christian Broadcasting Network. Yes, the one that is now Freeform. The one that is now owned by ABC. Again, alternate universe, Panda, like, goddamn, man, I could have, like, ABC Freeform money. I probably could have, ridden it to stardom, and I wouldn't be making videos. And anyway, real life Panda, well, here I am in my little townhouse in Cary, North Carolina. She had been offered to do a lifestyle TV show, kind of like, Martha Stewart, daytime stuff, fluff, couch talk, a cooking segment. They wanted to pair Panda Mom with, I love this part of the story, Lulu Roman from Hee Haw. And they flew Panda Mom up to Minneapolis for a week, and, Panda Mom interacted with Lulu Roman, and, they decided the chemistry was good, the producers, and they decided to offer Panda Mom a contract. And Panda Dad was like, "You're not taking the fucking kids to Minneapolis." So, two tribes went to war, and after several years, Panda Mom won, but I guess the show fizzled. So anyway, that was the family environment that I grew up in. It was that toxic. It was that nasty. When I say psychologically harmful, every day was just an exercise in survival. Add to the fact that I was the fat kid. Add to the fact that I was already starting to deal with the fallout from "Bye guys, have a nice life." I was already starting to get ridiculed. I was already starting to fall out of the social circles, and I was already starting to, be the outsider. So I try to keep myself together the best that I can, and part of that rationalization, the therapy isn't going to work for me because I know what's wrong with me. I had a therapist. I saw, man, 1995, when I moved to Orlando for graduate school. I went into therapy, and we did that intake conversation. And one of the things that the therapist said is like, you're probably one of the most self-aware patients that I've ever interacted with. I know what's fucked up. I don't know how to fix it, and I can't fix it at this point in time. It's the wadded up piece of aluminum foil syndrome. So I will never be happy. So I want to make others happy around me. It's that idea, I understand that I can be an asshole. Every time that I am an asshole, that is the damage. That is me falling apart. That is the seams showing through. That's the panda in the back trying to keep things together. Suddenly, the panda's like, "Oh fuck!" There's a line, and again, because I give good villain, this is all starting to come together now. A lot of people have this perception of me. And one of the films that I love, I can't watch it very often just because it fucking breaks and destroys me. And, I'm still very waspy in terms of, public control of emotions. I hate to be the crying dude. If I know a film is going to make me cry, I'm going to see it alone just because I don't want to be that dude in the theater. Like, when I saw Wreck-It Ralph, my God, that scene at the end when Vanellope is talking to Ralph, and, Wreck-It Ralph is my goddamn spirit animal. So much about that movie. When they're having the anniversary for Fix-It Felix, and all the townspeople are in the townhouse and they're partying and they're getting their thing on, and Ralph shows up and says, "Why is he here? Who invited him?" That was my life in Orlando and Florida furry fandom for a very long goddamn time until I moved in 2009. Why is he here? Who invited him? Who wanted him here? Okay, fess up. Who brought him in? That was like 90 minutes of therapy for me. And that scene at the end when Vanellope is telling him, it's like, I can make you a place where you can stay and nobody will hurt you and nobody will be mean to you. I was doing this shit in the theater, but I wasn't trying to control it. I'm in a dark room. Listen, Pee Wee Herman masturbates in a theater. I go into a theater to cry alone. So there's this scene when in The Color Purple, where you have, everybody, they're down partying at the juke joints, and, all the good Christians are up in church, and the sounds of gospel start to waft down, and the estranged daughter hears it, and she leads everybody up into the church. And I'm already breaking up thinking about this. She walks into the church, and her father comes down, and she embraces him, and he just kind of mechanically puts his arms around her, and she says, "See, sinners have soul too." And that's how I've tried to live my life. I understand that I'm the villain. I understand that I'm the monster. I understand that I'm the asshole. I understand that I'm the sinner. But goddamn, I try to be a decent person. And I do that by trying to make other people's lives better. If I can do something to make people's lives better, I feel better. That's why I teach. When I interact with students and I can do something to make my students' feel better, more confident, to help them pass, to get them to a job, to do something, I feel better for that. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to have someone saying, oh yeah, I heard about him. He's a dick. He's a monster. Hey, you want to hear about this thing that he did back in 1997? Oh my God, ask him about Furry Spring Break. And by the way, Brenda, if you've gotten this, I'm going to ask you I'm finally going to answer the question that you hounded me for. What happened to the money? The American Red Cross thanks Furry Spring Break for the work they did. So all that money, once I realized that the coup was happening, I drained the con bank account. So by the time you all finally went in there, by the time you got my former associate director to join your con by making him the director, by the time you all finally went down to First Union and you got in the bank and you found it drained, yeah, I realized what you were doing, so I pulled it out. And when I realized that Furry Spring Break was not going to come back, this was 2002, they were still hurting from 9/11, they got a very nice donation from it. So all this bullshit, you ran off with the money, you ran off. Oh, fuck you, pole dancer. The American Red Cross got the money. Which is probably more than you ever made with your amateur stripping job when you moved out to San Francisco. Yeah, I've still got the files from that saved on an old drive somewhere, that whole web page. Anyway, my mother isn't a complete and total monster. I think we're actually very similar in terms of that. We had shitty childhoods, we do shitty things, and we try to do things to make other people's lives better, to try and add value to ours. You know, my mom taught me when I was a little boy, if you can go out and you can help people, do that. One of my earliest memories of my mom was probably 1975, 1976. The church that they were going to, you know, she was part of a women's group, and they went in and they kind of kept an eye on senior citizens. If you're from Flint, Michigan, there's an apartment complex, the Myers Thrifty Acres on Center, just south of what's now the Cortland Center. There's a big apartment complex in there, and at least when I was a little boy, that was a senior apartment complex. And I remember Mom and I would go in there and we would do things for some of the residents who were in there, you know, buy some things and put them in there, clean up. You know, that's what I was always taught. Try to go out and do things to make people's lives better. And what kind of got me started thinking about all this, God, I've been going at this for an hour. If you're still watching this, fucking Rockstar points to you. It's the day after the 17th of January. Raleigh has just been hit with 8 inches of snow. And you know, I went out and I shoveled the snow for my car, for my partner's car. I shoveled the drive. And at some point in time, because my Apple Watch is miserly, I had to go out. Oh God, I'm having my own Dynaman moment here. You know, Dyna Purple. There we go. I had to make the exercise rings meet on my Apple Watch because I'm neurotic and I'm obsessive, and if I don't get that affirmation from the watch, hey, good job, the fat panda, you made all your rings meet, I keep the streak going. So I had to go out and walk. And I went out and I walked in some of the nastiest winter weather I have ever seen since I was a little boy in Michigan. So I went out our street. I walked up Walnut in Cary. I reached a point where I also had to do my Pokemon Go stuff. I then turned around and went back down the street. And as I'm coming by the Shell station on Walnut, I see a woman in a little 4-door sedan. So the parking lot, the gas station is down here. There's a little bit of a hump to pull onto Walnut. Her car can't get over it. And as I'm walking by, she rolls her window down. Excuse me, sir. And I had a moment where I was thinking, it's like, you know what? I can do one of two things here. I have one of those big furry Russian style hats on that I keep in winter weather. It looks really rocking with a beard, but even with the goatee, I was like, you know what? I can pretend not to hear. I can keep walking. But part of me is like, fuck it. So I squatted down. What can I do for you? And she was stuck. And what I did was I pushed her to the point where she could get up the hill. It took me about 10 minutes. My miserly Apple Watch didn't give me a goddamn moment of exercise for it. My green rings were still at 25. I had to walk 5 more minutes to make it. But anyway, it took 10 minutes of my time. It took a little energy, a few calories, but I did something for someone else. Someone's life was better because of something that I did. Likewise tonight, one of the reasons why I spent an hour shoveling my drive was I kind of looked over to our neighbors to the left. I looked over to the neighbors on the right. And one of my neighbors, the farthest unit in our building, every time I see her walking, she has a crutch. I'm not going to peer. I'm not going to pry. It's none of my business, but every time I see her walking, she's got a crutch. And I was kind of looking down at my watch. It's like, you know what? It's 12:15. I've got all of our stuff taken care of. It's like, oh, fuck it, Panda. I cleared the drive for our neighbors on the left side. I cleared the drive for the neighbors on the right side. I cleared the sidewalks. I cleared the path. I put a note on their door. Be warm, be safe, do something awesome for a stranger today. And what I'm hoping is when they wake up and they go outside tomorrow, instead of thinking, oh shit, it snowed, oh my god, it's going to be, I got fucking something, they're going to walk up, they're going to see everything's cleared. They've got a path to their car. Hopefully I will have done something to make someone's day just a little better. Likewise, and I guess this is kind of where I'm pushing to with all this. When I got my job where I currently work, after I had been there for just under a year, once I knew that I was safe, once I knew that I was secured, I started thinking about the local furry community. When I first moved up here in 2009, I kind of kept a very safe distance. I was kind of afraid that my reputation would follow me. And apparently it did. There's at least one person who parties with folks back down in Orlando who heard some things about me and kind of seeded a few people in the local community to be afraid of me, or at least to kind of look down on me with that scorn and condescension that I've been carrying for the last 20-something years. But I kind of decided, it's like, you know what? We've got a big group here, and this is a group that gets together the first Saturday of every month in Pullen Park. Something in the back of my head was like, it's time to start another con. So I did, just like I did back in 1998, 1999, I started thinking about the logistics. Where could I go? How can we build it up? All those little things that I had to do back when I started putting Furry Spring Break together. I had to win a lot of people over. There were some very hard sells because there were several failed attempts at making a convention start here in Orlando. So it's like, hey, this fat, creepy guy who just kind of stands in the corner at the picnics and talks to his one friend wants to make a convention. Ha, 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 ha. But I did that because I wanted to try to create a convention for people in the area. I wanted to give people a place where for one weekend they could come and they could be accepted. Just like I said, we accept you for who you are. We accept you unconditionally. I wanted people to have that same sense of embrace. Of course, that also means that I'm involved, and that's kind of why we're here. That means that all the scars, all the damage, all the living shit, in particular, the fear of trust, the need for control, And the fact that I'm living with the scar of my father's stunt, I'm living with the scar of my mother's stunt, and I'm living with the scars and fears of the furry spring break coup. Oh, and here's the best part about this. I've not mentioned this. I'm not giving names. If you're adept at reading between the lines, you know what I'm talking about. If not, sorry, The panda is not a tea drinker. No Kermit the Frog moments for you. But the name of this event that replaced Furry Spring Break, it is a direct attack at me. It is a passive-aggressive, fuck you panda attack at me, which was, one of the many reasons why in 2002 when this all went down, I was like this far away from suicide, to the point where when the event actually happened, I had two friends of mine in New Hampshire like, okay, dude, we need to get you the fuck out of the state. We need to sequester you somewhere. God, it was the weirdest thing. They paid for the airfare. They sequestered me away in New Hampshire. Don't go on IRC. Don't make any posts on your live journal. You are going. I literally got ghosted for a week while this new event was going on. Do nothing on IRC. Do nothing on LiveJournal. This is 2002, kids. The internet was a different place. There was no social media. In the event that people do try to blame anything that happens on you, my buddy and I, we can say that you were here, and we will have the proof. But in the meantime, let's just get you the hell out of there, and let's put you in the in the safe house. And that's literally what it was and how it felt like. So anyway, I've got all these things that I'm bringing to the table with me, and I'm going to fuck up. I'm going to have moments where I have the trust fear. I'm going to have moments where something in the back of my mind says, it's getting too far out. Grab it. Pull it back in. I mean, I've had some people even go so far as to say that I am trying to buy my popularity. Really? If I'm buying popularity, goddamn, where's the receipt, man? People don't invite me to parties. Very few people talk to me. And hey, look, for some reason I seem to have my villain asshole reputation very well instaunched in the area. So if I'm trying to buy my popularity by putting on this con, I want the fucking receipt, because god damn it. The other thing is, this is not theater. This is me trying to create something so people who do not have access to it can experience it. One of the most amazing moments I've ever had, like I said, it was a Conference 5. I had 3 people whom I'd been talking to on Furry Muck. They were names on a screen. They were a text description. They were people that I conversed with back and forth. They could have been a bot. And for me, one of the moments that was most magical was when I stepped off a Continental Airlines 757 in John Wayne Airport in Orange County, and to see 4 people down there waiting for me, like, bandit, get over here, bandit. The sense of having a hole filled in my psyche for one weekend, it's euphoric. I completely understand why some furries find the fandom and they kind of go head over heels into it, because a lot of people who identify as furries have been lonely or kind of outcast to one degree or another. So suddenly when they find someone, it's like you feel whole, you feel embraced, you feel a part of something. You feel like, you are one, you're part of the in-group for one. That's not theater. I'm trying to create something down here so other people can experience that, because goddamn, at 45, I'm looking ahead and I'm realizing that I have more days behind me than I have ahead of me. And no one should ever have to go through life feeling lonely or feeling rejected. Everybody deserves to be a part of the community, even if they're not attractive, even if they don't have money, even if they're not popular, even if they're not cool. Everybody belongs. And that is what I am trying to create with this event. And again, I've really, I have worn several of my staff thin, and that's one of the reasons why I've put this video together to maybe help people understand the workings of what I do, why I do, and how I do it. Like I said, a majority of the time, I am a mass of walking, living scar tissue. I am a collection of parts that are strung together with chewing gum and fishing wire. And usually I keep it together pretty good, but sometimes things just happen where I have those moments where things fall apart. And what I'm hoping, and I think this is where I'm just going to kind of close things off, you don't have to forgive me. All I'm asking is that you understand. So in other words, I'm not going to play the thing because I know this is a popular excuse. I'm damaged, I'm broken, I get a pass for whatever I do. This is not asking for a pass. If I fuck up, let's have a conversation. I'm going to blast this wide. If you're someone from the 90s or the 2000s who feel as if I have done you wrong, let's have a conversation. Whatever I did, I will try to remember. I can't always remember because, one of the joys of 45 is that, this has started to fail me. And it's so filled with so many years now. Some are getting pushed out. If I have done you wrong, let's have a conversation. It doesn't have to be that we're going to go back to being BFFs and everything is going to be fine, everything is going to be awesome. But it's a beginning for something. Again, the aluminum foil. I think there are a lot of people out there in the world who are just kind of crushed up balls of aluminum right now. Start separating it back out into a square. We're never going to make it smooth again. That's never going to happen. I acknowledge that. But let's talk. Let's have a conversation. And again, just try to understand. I think people get so caught up in the heat of the emotion once they say, he's a dick, he's an asshole, he's a monster, whatever. I know, like I said, this past week, I was called Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump. Now I know in the heat of the moment, that person didn't mean that. But again, when you're in a high emotional state, shit comes out and shit happens. So there we go. As always, if you're watching this, most of you know how to get a hold of me. If you don't know how to get a hold of me, leave a comment. Beyond that, thank you for watching.